What's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday. Welcome back to another watch this video. What a day today. Huge snapback in a lot of beaten down AI names, whether it's your SanDisk, BE, NBIS, obviously thanks to Mr. Leopold, rest in peace to what I like to call situational leverage fund, right? That's a great example of why we trim into strength and reward ourselves for our hard work so we can show up the next day and the next day and the next day. Survival is important, but also paying yourself on the way up is super important as well, right? Your NQ, right, day one of a rally attempt is very possible. You had a big bullish engulfing. You're back through that prior support, but we got a lot of overhead above us, so it's going to be super interesting to see how we react to that. I don't quite know, right? But I will say they also didn't make it too easy to buy that gap up, right? You look at the XLK, it wasn't too bad right through that prior pivot, right? If you look at the intraday chart, I think your SMH as well, kind of right through that prior pivot, not bad right off the open. Although, like I said, it's not easy to buy a gap up in a shitty environment, so I didn't do it. I know maybe a few could bought some of these. EWY is another one, right, where you kind of just through that prior pivot on the weekly chart, you push right through it off the gap up. But I mean, I'm not gonna buy this thing right off the open when it's, I don't know, it's not doubling up too much, but at the same time, it's hard to buy these big gap ups when the environment's been so poor, right? They didn't make it easy. That's all I got to say there. And we're not just going to get massive bases and setups off of a day one of action, right? We still need a lot of time to build out on a bunch of names, majority of names, if that, right? But I will say, so far on the weekly chart, right, you do have some nice shakeout candles, whether it's your SanDisk, your MU, your AMD, Intel, Marvell. Obviously, this is my universalist sorted by dollar volume, WDC, all these names. BE is interesting, right, as far as a candle and its volume as a reversal, but kind of right back to the top of the base. But either way, that's interesting to say the least on a weekly chart, but it's not anything I'm too obsessed with, right? Like I said, there's a bunch of overhead, so we got a lot of work to do, right? But I'm keeping an eye on names that are above the 50-day, have been going sideways and showing relative strength, but also building higher lows, since whether you want to take it from this low, or like, for example, July 17th, right? You look at FCell, right? The market made a lower low and FCell made a higher low, and then a nice push through the 50 today. It's been going sideways. It's been hit right down about 50%. Well, now it's 38, but same thing with BE. But this one, BE's at the 200-day, finally getting back above the 200, while your FCell is back through the 50-day and is building higher lows relative to the market. So it's interesting. And then you got some that are like below the 50, but are building higher lows from that same lower low spot the market made, right? HUT, Cypher, all of these do have earnings coming up the next week. It's interesting to see that they did build a higher low. I did get rid of my Cypher short above the prior day high today. If you've been watching my videos, I've been short this name since what is this, Friday, last Friday, right? Nice breach and failure. And I've been I've been covering on the whole way down. And today, right, I had a 2% position going in today. I saw the gap up, I saw the push above the prior day high, I got rid of it, right? I'm not going to sit in this thing and be stubborn. But either way, definitely keep an eye on a lot of names, right? My list is big, although none of these really to me look super viable. And I don't know if I want to do anything on Friday besides be super patient. I will say Microsoft starting out that list. Nice gap up today on the earnings report, right back above the 200-day. Looks like a character change, right? You see a lot of stocks like your Dell, right, started off the bottom with a big earnings gap up right after kind of being neglected or just a piece of shit, and then you go sideways and then you start something, but you need the sideways, right? That's the most important part behind the gap up, right? ARM, same thing, but this one wasn't on earnings, I don't think. Yeah, no, you just get a big gap up sideways, nice little base there, whatever. But we are where we are now on ARM, that's why I'm not focusing on it. Another one is your Marvell, right? But this one I'm pretty sure was on earnings. Yeah, you're on earnings, you get the big gap above the 200. Obviously, these ones are not as beaten down as a Microsoft, but you get the nice sideways afterwards, and then you can get cooking. But I don't know. I like to track names like Microsoft when we're in corrections, right? Gapping above the 200-day, it's super interesting. But I'm not going to be buying this thing tomorrow or the day before or the day after. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe, right? Could be a high volume close setup. Not something I really want to buy, but something I'm going to continue to monitor the next few days. Talking about some after hours action on earnings, right? The safe haven for institutions, Apple, is down about 6% in the after hours, right? You get risk on stuff to start to bounce, and Apple's down. Not surprising. We'll see what can come of that tomorrow. Will the dip be buyable on like an Apple since it's been holding up well? I don't know. Not something I'm buying, but Amazon, nice 9% gap up. Definitely pushing your NQ in the after hours. It seems like, at about 257. Flip to a weekly chart, big pivot, big area we're kind of coming into. Will we find some resistance there? Are we going to hold a nice strong gap up? I would really like to see that. That'd be super interesting. Reddit, right? You had a good report and you're down like 9%. Uninteresting. Don't pay attention to names like these. Hood, same thing. You live below the 200 for a week. and you're flushing lower on earnings. Even though it was a good report, it doesn't matter, right? AXTI though, not a bad quarter. This thing was up like 26% day, and now it's up 23% after hours on earnings. It is what it is. Not a name I'm going to be buying, right? It's just straight down, needs a real setup, and not anything I'm really interested in for a while. So interesting. Go to your futures, right? Back to your futures. Like I said, there's a lot of possible scenarios with your NQ, but I'll just continue to monitor. It's day one of a rally attempt. Could we get a follow through day as early as Tuesday? Anytime after that as well could work. Will be super interesting. Your dollar, right? Stage one base, you start to move into stage two, and you got your first flag, and then you fail. So back below the 50, back below the pivot, not the best look for your dollar, but it could be a nice look for your equities. Definitely interesting. Your Kospi in the after hours here is getting a nice bounce off the 200 after an inside day. I'm not surprised this is happening, but you're kind of turning support into resistance over here in the short term. We'll see what can come of that, but get super excited to the downside. I wouldn't be surprised to see a multi-day bounce there. Your EWI, obviously same thing, right? And I talked about the regular EWI, not in the boats, with the undercut and rally today, and some nice volume was interesting. Crude, right? I just want to continue to keep an eye on crude. Could it lose a 50 right here? Possibly. Is it a lower high? I don't know. Or is it just like a stall bar and maybe it just wants to continue higher? I don't know. But I will say Dino, nice building sideways here, digesting in a nice way. PBF on earnings today was an absolute beast, right? You kind of build a flag inside day and then gap up on earnings and you're gone. So super nice. DK is another one building out sideways in a nice way. And CVI was one where you build a big base and you gapped up, broke out of it on earnings today, and held in a decent way. So interesting to say the least, right? Going over breadth real fast here, right? Super volatile, right? You can just tell how volatile this action has been. But right, you had an absolute terror of a day yesterday as far as breadth, and I talked to my video, right? You often will get like really bad breadth, and then it's very possible the market will bottom that next day. Learned that from Pradeep. We pretty much saw exactly that. Although I'm not buying that day to day. Like I personally didn't buy anything today, right? I'm 100% cash. I just feel less stressed being that way, but definitely a nice breadth day today, whether you look at Pradeep's or whatever. Was a big breadth day today, but overall super volatile. Going over my list here, try to make this quick, right? AMD built a undercut and rally, not anything I bought. It's below the 50. Get us back above the 50, or maybe a few days it just get tighter around the 50. I don't know. It's just a name I want to keep an eye on. It hasn't gotten beaten up too bad in its overall structure, and it's trying to build a base and it bounced off the bottom of its base, but it's got earnings coming up, so an earnings gap up would be super interesting. It's something I'd probably trade, but either way, I just want to keep an eye on it. ANET, another one, earnings coming up, but it is building a nice base. You just rallied back to the 50 with an OEL. So it's interesting. The weekly chart looks fine. Just want to continue to keep an eye on names building big bases while the market's in a correction. Crowd inside day today, is it building a higher low off the 50? To me, it does look like it's doing that. So interesting to say the least. The weekly chart looks fine, kind of 2 weeks of low volume. You got earnings, not for a little while. So maybe a spot inside day today. I will watch for a push above Wednesday's high or even today's high. But if this thing's gapping up tomorrow, like above the 1020, that'd be interesting for sure, but I just don't know if I want to be buying a gap up on day two. But crowd, nonetheless, one to keep an eye on. Palo Alto's also on that list, right? You're almost on the 50, right? You're practically at that prior support. Can we get back through the 10 and 20? Interesting. You're at the bottom of the range. I like it, but we'll see what can come of that. It's one I want to keep an eye on. Maybe it was one that was viable today with an inside day yesterday. I don't know. Who knows? Through that pivot, like in the beginning of the day, right? You kind of had like a little washout from the open, or I don't know, I can't tell, but nice spot for some sort of a higher low in the overall trend to kind of build here would be interesting. Okta, same thing, you're right under a pivot. Weekly chart doesn't look bad. You're trying to build a higher low in the overall structure of the chart, practically off the 50. Just continue to monitor this name, but like I said, none of these ones really look too buyable to me. Crowd obviously is on that list. TDOG, software related name, inside data, one of the better looking names I think on my chart. I don't know if I want to be buying a breakout tomorrow though. Like Snow looks great, but what is Snow going to look like in the next few days, right? Is it going to fail, or is this thing going to continue higher? Is it going to flag out a nice way and then continue higher? I don't know, but the market's environment's been too bad that I'm okay with missing these first names that are starting to take off, right? Like specifically your Snow was interesting though. And a really nice push day, and some software names are acting great, right? S is another software related name, also cybersecurity. It could be a bear flag here in the short term, or you got an inside week. Doesn't look too bad, kind of getting tight right under that pivot. Will we push out above that? I don't know. A few more days of action back above the 1020 here would be interesting to me. I talked about NTAP. This one has been holding up really well, showing really nice relative strength. It's been building higher lows this whole time. The weekly chart looks good. Looks like it's ready to push out. I will watch for a break out of this pivot. Super interesting. Looks like just regular pivot break, and it's starting to get like a little mini cut base almost. So a nice push above today's highs would be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if this thing's capping up. I don't know. But but either way, looks pretty interesting. I don't know if I chase the gap up in any way, even an end tap. A net was really nice today. Kind of had a pull back to the 20, nice washout hammer candle day. Maybe some of you got that, I don't know, but you got earnings coming up soon, but nice push day as well for this net, and it's been holding up really well. The weekly chart looks awesome, so maybe a new leader, I don't know. One to just continue to keep an eye on. Microsoft, talked about HPE. This one, you know, you still got that gap down in the way, but, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's above that. No, not quite yet, but you know, really nice shakeout of the 50 today. So one to continue to monitor. The weekly chart is getting tight. This looks like a high tight flag. It definitely looks like a flag, if that. So super interesting here. It's building a base while the market is in a correction and straight down, and this thing sideways, right? One to just obviously keep an eye on. Maybe a push today or tomorrow the market gets a little bit better, something goes sideways, this thing puts in a few inside days or something, gets tight, pulls back, I don't know, but you're pulling back to the 50, undercut and ride that prior low, and a nice day today. GH, I want to throw this one on the list. I think it still looks awesome. I don't own it anymore, but the earnings report gave a nice rally back to the 10-20 today, and this like little mini pullback. So the weekly chart looks good. ARKG was awesome today. TXG was awesome today. Eli Lilly wasn't, but I mean, this thing looks pretty cool. FCell, a name I'm going to continue to monitor for sideways. Dell, a name that's possibly continuing to build a base here and not wanting to break down. AMD was, you know, to me, I just haven't really liked it too much. I've watched it every day because it's been holding up, but it just, this action has been so bad. And I mean, even today sucked, right? You had like a super nasty close below your support, and I was hoping for a rally back through as an undercut and rally, but you just gapped up too much, and then you just pushed, and just a lot of overhead supply right into the bear gap here, the resistance gap, and that was honestly even a shortable spot, but obviously it's pushing the after hours. Don't really want to be shortening the hole, so we'll see. But yeah, Dell looks good. Continue building out the base. Looks like it's trying to build a higher low right off that June 9th low, so it's interesting. It's back through the 50, but it's another one where it's like you got the gap right here. Is this going to be an area of resistance? Most likely, maybe short term, and then we can get through it, but I would like to see us push through that. But overall, weekly chart looks fine, but just continue building a base. Like, give us a big base here while the market goes into or continues to roll over in a correction, or this thing bottoms and it offers a pullback after it makes a big move up. That'd be interesting, to say the least. That's pretty much going to be my list, right? Like I said, there's just not too much I'm like obsessed over that I want to buy tomorrow. In general, I've scanned a lot of stocks too, right? WGMI, I'm just going to go through the markets and ETFs right here real quick to end it, right? You get a nice push through the 200-day, interesting to say the least, but man, this action is volatile. DRAM, another one, right? You kind of close ugly on support, gap up, push. You can look at all these holdings. I think STX out of all of them is holding up the best, for sure. It's kind of just going sideways here in the last like month or two, but still it's just another one where I don't see anything to do on this at all. EWY, right, cleanest as far as like your undercut and rallies today. SMH wasn't bad at the open, but now is definitely where it gets interesting, right? Is it going to push through this resistance? Is it going to push through some of these overhead levels and some of the gaps, or is this where, you know, the shorts are going to roll back in, right? Will these be some interesting spots for shorts and sellers to step in? I don't know, but we'll have to see. QQQ, right below prior support. Is it going to push through that? It looks like it is in the after hours. We'll see if it'll open up there, or we'll see if you push through and you hold, or if you don't. But another one, just so much overhead supply in this market. We just need more time to go sideways, and then we can get started. For sure, SPY with an inside day, IWM with an inside day. It'd be interesting to see if these things are breaking higher in the after hours and if they're actually going to break. RSPT, right, your tech equal weight with an inside day. QQQE with an inside day. Are these things, you know, is this a bear flag or is this going to break higher? I don't know. We'll see. But obviously, you got some nice earnings in the after hours as far as an Amazon. So who knows? RSP, right? You kind of had like a failed breakout yesterday and then like a shakeout of the 10-20 today, which is interesting, right? Maybe like a squat trying to go on here. Definitely interesting. ARKG, I talked about, looks good. Super nice higher low off the 50. Weekly chart looks awesome. XBI also, right? You kind of come into the bottom of the range, you undercut it, and you rally back through today. Just get back above the 10 and 20. Weekly chart looks not too bad. It looks good. It's just been pulling back on, you know, dried up volume. Looks pretty good. 4 weeks in a row. Sorry, I'll zoom in so it's a little bit easier. I know I'm probably just yapping. XLV, right? Another one where it's like, it tries to break out, gets a little too extended short term, and then squats right back in. Not a bad candidate, but Eli Lilly, man, I just don't. This absolute disgusting action. Will it hold the 50? Maybe. Like I said, I didn't like this in here. It's got earnings coming up. Maybe it'll gap up on earnings again. I don't know, but I will say GH looks awesome and just continues to act awesome. And then Illumina. I have to sneeze. Illumina, nice breakout of like that little sideways there. Bug right at the 50-day. Will that hold? IGV, right? Can it push through the 200-day with Microsoft? I don't know. We'll have to see. I got that area marked. I'm just going to keep an eye on it and see if it can. Not an inside day today, but very close. just a tight day overall. Right, Microsoft acting cool. Snow acting awesome as far as your software. Twilio just looks like an H pattern to roll over and break down. Frog, kind of same thing. 2 days, like just almost like it's building a bear flag. I don't know. You, not bad, right? It's nice to see it get back over the 200. It's building like a nice little sideways base. Got earnings coming up soon. Gap up on earnings, and I'd be super interested in some of these names. TTAN, you're building a stage 1 base almost. You're back above the 200 and like barely. Software related names, just interesting. XLF names look really good, and they continue to look awesome, and the XLF continues to act super nice. TNX, I will say, I was looking at this weekly chart, super interesting, seeing inside week. Is it going to break higher? I don't know. We'll see. Is it going to be like a failed breakout? Who knows? But to say the least, it's super interesting. And then Ethereum, I just felt like bringing this up. Right, Bitcoin's still acting not the best. It's kind of still down here on Bitcoin, but Ethereum's already kind of broke out of this little mini like bottoming pattern, and it's going sideways and building what looks to be maybe a flag, or this thing's about to roll over. I don't know. There's no trade for me here, right? I flipped the chart. Oops. Flip chart, you know, I don't know. I don't know what to think, but not bad sideways to say the least, right? It's nice to see Breath improve. Names bouncing back in a big way, but next week will definitely be super interesting to see how that reacts, right? Will this pop be like a few days long and be a short opportunity into supply and into resistance, or will names have their balance, build sideways, give us a fall through day in the market, give us some tight setups early next week? Whatever, I'm ready for whatever. I remain 100% cash. Nothing really to do for me just yet. Even tomorrow, like I said, most likely I'm doing nothing. Probably am not doing anything, right? Circling back to how we started night, we trimmed into strength, right? Or focusing back to what we did later, or sorry, earlier. Okay, whatever. We trimming into strength is important. Rewarding ourselves for hard work. So we can show up every single day, ready to do it all over again, and survive, right? Like Cypher, for me example, I'm covering into weakness, same thing as trimming into strength, right? So that way I can show up on the next day, because if I still had a big position, I would have gotten squeezed in a big way today. That would not have been fun, but I'm still here. So cover into weakness, trim into strength, same thing. No watch this video tomorrow since it's Friday. I will see you all Sunday night. I recorded this video like 5 times, wasn't recording like 2 of the times, and whatever, but I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Peace.